Hey folks, I'm Joe Morris. Welcome to Answers, Heaven Speaks. I really like that title, Answers, Heaven Speaks. And the reason why Marisa and I named our first book, Answers, Heaven Speaks, we originally, our initial manuscript was entitled Bridging the Gap Between Christianity and Spirituality. And it was really funny because we had a few people look at our manuscript. One very nice lady read the whole thing, gave us comments and everything on it. But we found that Christians didn't want to hear anything about New Age stuff because that basically is a term nowadays for spirituality, is New Age, which was coined by Christians to say, don't pay attention to that because that's new stuff and we should be always learning from the old. Well, Jesus may have been crucified, but he was resurrected, and we all know he's alive. And time goes on. I mean, life is dynamic. It's not static. Things change. Being an American, I love the fact that we have a Constitution, and we all follow the Constitution, but there's always going to be little changes. There are lawsuits that go into the courts, and then eventually they get appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And there are little changes. Not dramatic changes. But what's so wrong? How do I put this? What's so wrong about being able to speak to the other side? And that's where we're lucky, because that's what Marisa can do. And if you go to our book, we changed it from Bridging the Gap Bridging the Gap between Christianity and Spirituality to Answers, Heaven Speaks. Because I always had so many questions. I had become a Christian. I was raised a Christian. I was actually raised a Christian Scientist. And so we weren't allowed to go see doctors. We weren't allowed to take any medicine or anything like that. The only medicine we ever took was aspirin. My mom took aspirin throughout her entire pregnancy with me. I should have had an arm out of my forehead, to be honest. Maybe that's what explains me, because my mother took aspirin all the way through women are not supposed to take aspirin when they're pregnant. But, different generations, different things. So I was agnostic. I was basically agnostic forever. I didn't really care. I didn't care. I was not into God. Certainly wasn't into Jesus or Christ or anything in growing up. Even when my kids were born and we were raising them, sports was the most important thing. Having them play soccer and softball and baseball. And Marisa would do her hula. She did hula dancing and piano lessons, and and then she became a really good she was a good soccer player, but she was a very, very good softball player, a good pitcher. And I always picture her racing around the base paths and her hair flowing, and she always looked like this gallant horse just galloping around the base paths. So sports was really important. But when they got to be, I'd say when Marisa was, what was she, maybe 13 or 14, because she was born in 1977, so early 90s, her mom and I decided, Gleba, that maybe we should go to church. And she had found a church that was upbeat, and it played electric guitars, and they served donut holes after the service. You could drink coffee and juice and everything. It was really good, and everybody was about our age. What was I then? Maybe early 40s. And but I just never felt anything. I just, I went to church, and I liked the sermon, and I think that there was something good in the sermon that was teaching me something, but I just didn't get it. And it wasn't until I came across the book, the Urantia book, and that was just a total fluke. I mean, it was just a fluke. And I can't remember, some cable show. Marisa's mom used to be a nurse, and she'd come home about, she'd get off at I think at 11:30, get home sometime between 12 and 12:30, and I'd stay up and wait for her. I was in college, and actually no, I had just completed college. So when Marisa was born, no, I think I started reading. No, when did I start reading the Urantia book? No, I guess it was, no, we had already been going to church. We had been going to church in the 90s, and then there was a breakup in our church, and I just couldn't get accustomed to the politics of church. You know, how does the church break up when all the deacons come in and they fight with the pastor, and I don't know what the heck they're fighting about. Maybe all the money that's coming in and what they're supposed to do with it. Who knows? It eventually broke up. And when the church broke up, we just stopped going. And my kids would get into actually Sunday traveling leagues with their baseball or their softball. So we didn't have time for church. And what little church I had attended, or we had attended, it just didn't do anything for me. It just didn't do anything. I didn't know, you know, I mean, who's God? I mean, who is Jesus? I mean, who is it anyway? I mean, what, and why do we care? I mean, why should we care? And then I found the Urantia book. I was sitting around waiting for Glenda to come home one night, and I was watching this cable show. Cable was in its infancy, and it was something like Strange Universe. I think it was called The Strange Universe. And they would have segments on about UFOs, which I was really interested in, and much like maybe the History Channel or Discovery Channel, it would have 20-minute segments on strange things that go on around the earth. And one day they came on and they talked about the Urantia book, and I'd never heard about the Urantia book. And they said, if you really want to know what happened in the Garden of Eden, you should read this book. And then they said every president, and that the book had been channeled. Now, I didn't even know what channeling was at that time. I didn't even know who Edgar Casey was. I mean, I was just that far away from knowing just about anything. You know, if I knew every statistic of a ball player's his averages and on-base percentages and his the pitching stats and you know, I thought that was my religion. My religion was sports, and I really could care less. But I heard this thing on Strange Universe or whatever on the Urantia book. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting, because I was really into UFOs. My son and I had seen a UFO in 1988, 1989. It just came right over our house very slowly. It was enormous. It blotted out the sky. It looked like the shape of a heart, and it had a blue hue around it. And it didn't make a whisper of a sound. It was enormous. We had seen it come all the way from the horizon up over our house. So I was really into UFOs. And to this day, I probably would deny it, except that my son saw it with me. So we both remind each other that we saw that. Otherwise, I thought I'd been losing my cookies or something. So anyway, I thought that book really sounded interesting, because I thought it was all about UFOs. They called it the Blue Book. And I thought, wow, I got to get my hands on this book. So I went to Christian bookstores. I went to regular bookstores. I went everywhere. Really, the internet had not started up yet. This was the mid-90s. And so I went to an 800 number. And I went to 800 information. I said, you got anything on your Urantia? He said, yeah, it's in Chicago. And so I called them up and I said, you know, I saw this thing on Strange Universe. And they said, yeah, you want the book? And I go, yeah. And they said, so send us $25 and we'll send it to you. So they sent me the book, and I opened it up and I read the foreword. And I said, this makes no sense. I mean, I don't even understand what they're trying to say. I mean, this thing is insane. And but I flipped over to chapter 1, and I have to paraphrase now, because the first sentence said something like, God is your universal Father. And I went, oh, geez, this is a religious book. I wanted to know about UFOs. And, gee, what did happen in the Garden of Eden? So I started reading it, and I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and read it. It was a very big book. It was over 2,000 pages long, very small font, very thin onion skin type paper. And I just kept reading it, and reading it, and reading it, and reading it. And then I got to the very last part of the Urantia book, because it's in 4 segments. And just getting through the first 3 segments was just mind-blowing, because they're explaining what the universes are and how they're all created. And then they got to Earth, and they said, well, we're just going to talk about the last 1,000,000 years on Earth. And then it eventually got to the last section, which was on the entire life of Jesus Christ. And I thought, oh boy, okay, well, here we go. Let's see what they say about Jesus Christ. And in the interim, I had already read the Bible. I had gone to church. We had a little interim break with sports there in the mid-90s, and then we decided to go back again. And we actually went to a different church. The one where Marisa had been in a youth group. We had gone from a North Coast Presbyterian church, and then we went over to a North Coast Calvary church. But nevertheless, we went back, and I had some interest, and there was, I don't know, I think I'm mixing it all up now. No, I was still at North Coast. I went back to North Coast Presbyterian Church again. It was much smaller after the breakup. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I got into the story of Jesus, and that's what we're doing now. We're talking about the story of Jesus as it is portrayed in the Urantia book. Because eventually, Marisa had an accident. We described what happened in our first book, Answers Heaven Speaks, about what happened to Marisa. She had an accident. She rose up out of her body, and she had hit a fire hydrant, and she had had a seizure, so she's in the process of drowning in her own car with the water from a fire hydrant coming in through her moon roof on her brand new Mercedes. And people did save her, but she got to meet somebody from the other side. She met somebody that looked just like her, but was much bigger. And Marisa was looking down at herself in the car, slumped over a steering wheel, and people trying to save her. And yet she's 25, 50 feet above the car, and she's looking down. And she goes, look at that joke of a person. I mean, her life is ruined. She's just ruined her best car. She's trying to help people save their homes when they're broke, because she was a real estate loan agent at the time, and was helping people with short sales and things like that. And then yet here was this angel that's standing right next to her, but is like twice as big as her, is like 14 feet tall. But it would still look like Marisa. And so Marissa's like, wait, there's 3 of me? I mean, there's one that's real big right here that seems to be angelic, and then I'm right here, and then my other self is down there in the car. I mean, what's this all about? So eventually that led to Marissa's curiosity, and she started getting into all kinds of things, a lot of spirituality stuff. And she had never been into spiritualism in any way, form, or fashion. Yeah, they'd go to church with us, but they really looked forward to the donut holes at the end, and maybe the little social gathering with their friends. So anyway, one thing led to another, and eventually Marisa became a channeler. And it's in our book. I don't want to go over the whole details of it. But she ended up being able to channel. And then she became a Reiki master. She's a Reiki master, and that means she uses the energy of if you ever put your hands next to somebody and you can feel their aura. You can just feel their aura. It's almost so like electricity, almost like putting opposing poles of magnets, how they come close and you can feel it, and they bounce off. And she eventually started channeling, And then she became a Reiki master, and she used that energy that goes between somebody else's body and your hands, and she started to heal people. She was healing people mentally, physically, what have you. And then eventually it led into her being able to channel. And I had gone back to church, I'd gone to Bible study classes, I was becoming a Christian, especially since I had now read the Arancha book, and I really fell in love with Jesus because of the story that we're going over now. I just couldn't get it out of the Bible. For whatever reason, it just didn't touch my heart. But here, the Arancha book, it did. I mean, I fell in love with the man, Jesus, the spirit, Jesus. And, in a, how do you say, I don't want this to sound silly, but, hey, man, I really love you, man. I really love you, man. That kind of a love. I really love you, man. But anyway, so we started channeling. Marisa started channeling. We started doing sessions and what have you. And we led up to, and they said, you need to write a book, and you need to write lots of books. And we're going, we've never written a book before. We didn't know how to write a book. So we took all these transcripts. We do these sessions, and we'd have transcripts, and then I'd put them together, and then put them together in this big book, a great big thick book called Bridging the Gap Between Christianity and Spirituality. And it went nowhere. It just absolutely, it didn't ring any bells. It wasn't good for Christians, because Christians are going, oh, no, you're on a slippery road to hell, slippery slope to hell. And people who are spiritualists have thought about higher selves and ascended masters and spirits in general, and didn't really incorporate Christ or Jesus into their thought processes. They didn't want to hear about Jesus either. So here we were. We had something really special, but it didn't fit for anybody. I mean, the Christians didn't want to hear about it, and the spiritualists didn't want to hear about it either. And even Marisa was like, oh, Joe, Papa, why are we doing this about Christ? Why are we doing Bible things here? And so in our second book, we switched it. I took the whole thing, and I had a condo down in Puerto Vallarta, many of you know about now, but I went in there, I stayed in there for a couple weeks, and I just ripped everything apart and just put it back together and just rewrote the whole thing. And it became a good book. It's a good book, a very elemental book, teaching us basically where we come from and who we are and why we're here. It also gave the backstory on Marisa and basically the backstory on me, her father. So, but the name Answers Heaven Speaks is very fitting, because I always had so many questions. And Marisa, being a channeler, I could ask her questions while she was in trance, in her own, I don't want to call it a hypnotic trance, but whatever trance she goes into when she starts communicating with the other side. So I'd ask all these questions, but mostly they were always biblical. It was biblical, because that's what I knew. Was reading the Bible and going to Bible classes and going to church and no. And I was getting scorned on. Both Marisa and I were both getting scorned on by our pastors. I mean, they thought we were just nuts doing what we're doing. And they thought for sure we were going to go to hell. But Jesus, when he came in, was just very understanding. And I was very afraid that initially it was going to be all evil. I thought it was just, they were trying to convince us that what we were doing was evil. So that must mean that the devil is just very, very tricky. Lucifer is very, very tricky, and he can come across as a beacon of light, and he can mislead us. But the more we did it, the more we became assured by Jesus, Yeshua, Christ, and our souls, our higher selves would come in, and all kinds of universe personalities. And they assured us that what we're doing is okay. And what Jesus wanted us to do, he said, the world is going nuts. And now this is when when we started doing it, it was late 2011, and our first session started then, and through 2012, Jesus said the world is going to go nuts. The world is crazy things are going to be happening, and it's going to be very important to get my words out there. And I trust in you and Marisa to get my words out there. And we thought, oh my gosh, what? Don't put a burden like that on us. How are we going to do that? We're not ministers. We don't have a church. Marisa knew barely anything about Jesus or Christ or the Bible or anything. And me, I mean, the church of baseball or church of football or about surfing or something, tennis? No, that isn't going to work. How are we going to get his words out? How are we going to get Jesus' words out? And who's going to believe us? So we wrote the first book, and then we thought, well, you know what? Maybe let's take a break. And in our second book we put together was The Mysteries of the Universe. And after we put it together, I read it, and I said, nobody's going to believe this. I said, nobody's going to believe this. They're not going to believe our first book. They're certainly not going to believe the second book. I mean, we learned how the pyramids were made. We were told about UFOs and where they come from, and got us into Enoch and Anunnaki and all this other stuff, but we just tossed it. We put it off aside. And that was in, 2013, 2014, something like that. We just put it aside. And we just thought it was nuts. It didn't make any sense. But then they kept doing sessions, and they kept telling us, Jesus, and the rest of the personalities up there, that we need to write more books. We need to write more books. I'm going, what? I mean, what are we going to write about? So I told Marisa, I said, you know what? I'd be curious. I'd like to interview the authors of the New Testament. And so that's what we did. We starting with Matthew. We interviewed Matthew and Mark and Luke and John and Paul and Peter and Jude and James. And who else are we missing there? Luke. Yeah, we got Luke. Matthew, Mark, there's 8 of them. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, James, Paul. Who am I missing? And Jude. There you go. So we did that, and we ended up putting it together. We had, it was called the Bible Speak series, and it was in 4 books. We put them 2 by 2, but eventually I consolidated them and took out a lot of the bantering back and forth between Marisa and I, and put it more into a kind of a descriptive, rather than having our discussions back and forth with Joe, Marisa. I would incorporate all that conversation into kind of a pretense leading into whatever we had channeled. And it was a good book. It's a really good book. And we got a lot of stuff out of there because Jesus was in there on almost everything. While we're talking to Matthew, Jesus was there. We talked to Mark, Jesus was there. So we got something like 120 different channelings and things that were told to us, lessons from Jesus, including about 18 new parables. And so we did. We put together not only the 8 greatest authors, but then we put a book together called Conversations with Jesus. And that would be all the quotes, all the things that Jesus had given us. One of the first lessons he taught us was on the snow globe. He said, I am the snow globe, because you need to be in a snow globe. You need to protect yourself. There's a lot of evil out there in the world, and you need to put that armor of God around you and think of it as a snow globe. So we've got a little book called The Snow Globe. In fact, if you go to discoverintuition.com, I think Marisa might be giving away the snow globe for free, I think in a PDF form. So just about anything you want of ours, any of those books you see, just ask Marisa if you can have the PDF. Because our words are getting out there. I was leading up to the point. I keep track of how far we're getting on this, and I keep saying, okay, Jesus, I'm trying to get your words out there. I'm trying to get them out there as best as I can. And, thankfully for a platform like Meta, Facebook, it's all around the world. And yeah, there's some good things about Facebook. There's some bad things about Facebook. There's good things about the internet. There's bad things about the internet. But you know what? It is far-reaching. It is far-reaching. And just yesterday's story, just yesterday's lesson alone, our reach was 115,000 people. 115,000 people. Our show popped up onto their feeds. Doesn't mean people are going to watch it. People just scroll. They go, oh, who's that guy? Never mind. Scroll. But out of that, we got almost 2,000 people who listened to the show yesterday. So the word is getting out there. 115,000, maybe 120,000 reach, my God, and views, which meant people didn't watch maybe a whole minute or so of it. There was somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 people. So the word is getting out there, and Jesus' words are getting out there. And I think a lot of them are spiritual. People are spiritual. Although I know that a lot of men now are watching this, and a lot of people from South America. But yesterday we had people from Taiwan. We've got people from Taiwan now that are watching. People from South Africa, all of South America. I mean, every country in South America and in Central America. Can't get any people from France, Italy, the United Kingdom, Canada? No. A lot of people in the United States. So we're getting his story out there. And the best way to get Jesus' words out there is not to just dryly sitting here with the Bible, because me reading the Bible didn't make any sense either. And I was always questioning, who's Paul? I mean, why does Paul have so many books in here? And I don't see Paul's teachings, Jesus' teachings from the first 4 books of the gospel in Paul's teachings. They're different. I'm thinking, well, how come Paul knows so much about Jesus, but that wasn't portrayed in the gospels? Some of it, he used a lot, but he would expand on it, and then his story about his persecution, being sent to Rome, and being shipwrecked and all this other stuff, and how God saved him from dying, and kind of a historical thing. After we did interview, like Peter ended up with 2 little books in the Bible, and they're good. They're lessons. They're mostly lessons, and mostly the teachings of Jesus. Not the story of Jesus, but Peter gives the teachings of Jesus in 1st and 2nd Peter. And so does John in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. And of course, I think the most complete story of Jesus is in the initial book of John. And then, of course, John did the book of Revelation, which is, everybody wonders about that book. What's that about? So when we interviewed John, it was the only time that we really opened up the Bible. And okay, my crazy dogs. They feel spirit. Okay, I'm going to have to shut them up somehow. Somebody, hang on a second. I'm back in my bedroom again. Yesterday I tried going outside, but our modem gets blocked by a brick wall, and so I was having a little trouble with it yesterday. But ding, 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 ding. Watch this. Oops, it's not working. Ding, 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 ding. Poppy. Oh, dogs. You gotta love them. we had a real setback with our animals. We had a kitten, and she had a litter, and they all died. They all died, and then our cat just disappeared. I think she died of a heartbreak. She just slumped around for a day or two, and then we never saw her again. She just took off. And then somebody stole my dog, and then little Joey, guy on a motorcycle, just stopped, picked up my dog, and drove away. And then we lost Max. We had Max for a long time, and we knew he had a problem. We knew that he had sort of like a cancer in his throat, and so we thought, well, what do we do? Spend thousands of dollars trying to take care of him, and knowing that he could probably die with the whatever they were going to do for him. And we just thought, you know what, let's just let him live out his life, and that's it. And he did. He lived for about another year, and it was really sad. It was really sad when little Maxie, our Chihuahua, died. And then my dog gets stolen. Star had a litter, and our little half pug, half Chihuahua had a great litter of 6 puppies, and we kept 2 of them. And so we had 4 dogs, but then Max died, and somebody stole my dog. So now we're just down to 2, and in the meantime we got Star fixed. And so we can't get any more puppies from Star. And it's like, oh no, it's so sad. But animals are just, they're 4th dimensional. They're 4th dimensional. I know I'm going all over the place here. It's Friday. Who cares? It's Friday. But you got to love your pets. Pets and children. I mean, you got to love them to death. Kids are so innocent. They're just so innocent. If we could just be as innocent as children, my God, this world would be such a better place. Such a better place. And our animals, you can get mad at them, but boy, you give them a good look and they come right back over and lick your face. You know, they can drive you nuts, and you can spank them for doing something like ripping up the couch or something like that. And they walk around with their tail up behind their butts. And then you give them a good look, and they come right back over and lick your face. You know, they're 4th dimensional. They can be taught to be mean. Some people teach their dogs to be mean. But that's not nature. That's not nature in a dog. Cats are just cats. You know, they think that they rule the world. And but dogs, you gotta love dogs. They're 4th dimensional, and they bring that 4th dimension into us. The lovingness. I mean, we just let them jump up. It doesn't matter how big our dogs are or small. We let them jump up on our laps, and we hug them and we pet them, and we feel such love when we have, probably more so than we do with human beings. It's crazy. So anyway, I'm bouncing all around. Answers, heaven speaks. It's because I like to ask questions, and Marisa channels the answers right from Jesus, or from Peter, or from John, or from our ascended masters, or our soul, my Big Joe, or Marissa's Big Marisa. They all come in, and when we have sessions, there's just I don't see them. I may feel them a little bit, but I don't see them. Marisa sees them, and then when I ask a question and somebody answers from the other side, you'll see it when Marisa comes on, when she's channeling. Her eyes are closed and she speaks rapid fire. I mean, just rapid fire. I don't think she could even be reading a teleprompter that fast. But there's no ums or ahs or anything. It's just rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire. Like she's repeating something that's going into her ear. You know what it's like if you ever tried it, you know, put a plug in your ear and listen to a newscaster or something, and then repeat what he's saying. And that's Marisa. She's just either repeating what's being put into her head, and that's why she doesn't even really remember most of the time. I mean, we've written all these books, and Marisa, without her reading the books, she has to read them to learn, even though everything came out of her in the first place, because she's in a semi-unconscious state and maybe somewhat of a self-hypnotic state. But anyway, I think things are going good. We've got a pretty good thing going on here now because I've been doing this now for a while. I've been doing shows for a long time, but it was kind of sporadically. But when I decided in May to do the story of Jesus, I decided to make this a Monday through Friday thing. And how can anybody talk about Jesus every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6, sometimes 7? When I do it on Sunday, it's usually biblical, strictly biblical. Anything we're talking about during the week, I like to match it up with where it fits in to the Bible. But now Marissa's starting to come in and join in with the show whenever she can. And so when I finish my little story for the day, then hopefully Marissa's there and she'll come in. And I might have a question, or she may have comments on whatever we're talking about. But go back over these last couple weeks or so, and I'll put a little caption at the top of our description of the show, and I'll put in parentheses when Marisa comes in. So if you don't want to listen to the whole story for the day, just zoom on forward and go up to the hour mark. And that's about when Marisa comes in. And Jesus has given us some good instructions in the last few days. Gabriel, number two in the universe, Gabriel came in and gave us a very simple lesson the other day. I thought it was really, really fabulous. He said there's a lot of strife going on in the world. We understand that. We know that. We have tabs. We're not letting you guys die. We're not going to let you guys do something really stupid and kill yourself. At least they're going to try not to allow us to kill ourselves. But Gabriel said, despite everything that goes on, all the hardships that are going on in your life, your number one goal is to be happy. Happy. Happiness. You need to be happy. Happy from the good, not happy from the bad. Because some people, really bad people, get really happy when they do bad things. So there is a distinction there, because one is evil and one is not. So you seek your happiness through the good. And by seeking happiness through the good, just be grateful for what you got. Be grateful for the things that you have. Even if you're driving an old jalopy around, but if it gets you from point A to point B, who cares? You don't have to impress anybody with something brand new where you're working your butts off all day long to pay for insurance and car payments and this, that, and the other. But if that's what you're doing and that makes you happy, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be happy for what you got. I mean, that's the number 10 in the 10 Commandments, is be grateful. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. Be grateful for what you got. Don't be looking at what other people have and go, oh, I wish I had that. Just be happy with what God gave you now. I imagine there are probably rich people that are listening to this, and there's probably a lot of poor people that are watching this too, and trying to find some hope. And I think it doesn't matter whether you watch this whole show that I do every day, or even if you watch it every day, or maybe once a week or whatever. I can tell you, though, that there's going to be something in these teachings of Jesus that's going to touch your heart. It's going to touch your heart. It's going to change your thinking a little bit. And maybe it's going to make you a little more spiritual. Not the kind that's going to go out and you're going to take your Bible and you're going to beat somebody over the head with the Bible and go, you should read this because this is really important stuff. But just being kind to somebody, to a stranger, is like being a sower. That's like dropping seeds. Kindness, just kindness. And maybe that kindness is picked up in a way that that person can then turn around and show kindness to another person as well. I mean, that's what we really need in this world right now, is kindness, innocence, fourth dimensional thought. And so anyway, okay, big spiel on a Friday. what I wanted to get into was where are we with Jesus? Jesus in the story. I mean, he is getting chased around. I mean, the Pharisees hate him with a passion. He keeps healing people. He even raised Lazarus from the dead. And the Sanhedrin brought in Lazarus before them. That's like a court. It's a court of Congress people in the Jewish customs. And Lazarus was raised from the dead, and the Sanhedrin call him in and question him like he really didn't die or something. But there were witnesses. Everybody knew he had died. And then everybody knows that Jesus had raised him. Yet the Sanhedrin wanted to kill him. I mean, he had just been raised from the dead. And now the Sanhedrin wanted to kill him because they didn't want that story to get out there. And they want to kill Jesus too because they think that Jesus is going to kill the Jewish faith. They love their 613 laws. And Jesus only has 2. Love God with all your heart and soul and do his will. And number 2, treat your neighbor as yourself. It's pretty simple. Treat your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says love your neighbor, but sometimes it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to love your neighbor when your neighbor is beating you over the head with a baseball bat or trying to do evil to you. But in our lessons, Jesus told us how to deal with that. You pray for them. You see if you can take them into your church or into a group of people to help them out of their evil ways and out of the darkness and into the light. If it doesn't work, you just turn your back. You pray for them and you just let them go. Let them go. You did your best. So the Jews don't like only 2 rules. They like their 613 rules. And they think Jesus is going to just ruin everything. So Jesus has been down in Jerusalem. He went down there, and Bethany is where Lazarus lived, and Bethany's like an outskirts of a couple miles away from Jerusalem. And there's a new name for that. It's got a Middle Eastern name now. I don't know what the name of it is, but they did change the name of the town. But Bethany was where Lazarus was raised, and then he was run out of town. I mean, in our last lesson, literally, the Jews wanted to kill him. But Lazarus so feared them that he just packed up, and him and his sisters, Martha and Mary, they sold they were pretty well-to-do, and they sold off all their olive groves and other agricultural land and their house, and they split. And they went way up to Perea, back up to Philadelphia, and Lazarus became the treasurer, probably using his own money in the Philadelphia church that was established by Abner, who was the head of the apostolic corps of John the Baptist. And so Jesus now is gone. He's going back. I mean, he just can't stay in Jerusalem right now because things are just too heated. So heated at the point where the Pharisees are out in the town square yelling and screaming at each other, and they lose track of Jesus, and Jesus just sneaks away. He just sneaks away before they can stone him or arrest him. And he's gone back up to Pella. Pella is an encampment that's about halfway between the Galilee and Perea. They're protected there because the brother of Herod, Philip, is in charge there. And he's kind of going along with what, I don't know why it did that. We've got Starlink now. It just said trying to reconnect. So we might have gotten a little surge or something in our electricity, but sorry about that. Especially, I can't see how many people are on there live today, but I'm like you. If I'm watching something and it's live and then it breaks, even for a few moments, I go, oh, never mind. I tap it and I go on to something else. So have some patience. I am in Mexico, and things aren't always perfect coming out of here. So anyway, so Jesus is headed back up to his camp in Pella, and it's for the last time, because pretty soon he's going to be coming back, and we'll be getting into that next week in his stories, and him coming down into the belly of the beast It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So anyway, he's on his way back up to Pella, and he's walking with his 10 apostles, and he eventually makes it back to town, or back to Pella, and he's back together with all the apostles. And Jesus is doing some teaching during the day because there's a lot of people there. There's something like 1,500 pilgrims that are there in a camp that was put together by David Zebedee, the younger brother of the Zebedees. John and James are Jesus' apostles, and David's head of the messenger corps, sort of like a Pony Express, except they don't have ponies. And the messengers run around, they keep eyes out, they watching for the Pharisees coming in, basically the devils, the enemies, and keeping Jesus abreast of what's going on. And they also all work together in helping out all these pilgrims that are coming in from all over the Roman Empire and as far away as India. And they're coming in because they've heard of Jesus and they want to meet him. They want to see him. I mean, if he was alive today, wouldn't you want to do that? Wouldn't you want to go and see him? Just see him? If you could touch him and talk to him, that'd be fabulous. But certainly your curiosity would be that you'd want to see him. And these people were really lucky because Jesus would come in, he would teach. He would teach during the day now, this last week in Pella. And then at night, he would sit with his apostles and with some far-reaching, very learned other disciples would sit in. And so Jesus would answer questions, and he would give them parables. And sometimes he'd explain them, but sometimes he wouldn't. And that's where we are right now, because we're going to have a couple parables here. And the first one I'm going to read is the parable of the Shrewd Steward. And Jesus doesn't explain it. He almost gives the feeling that he accepts what this shrewd steward does. And so if we're fortunate enough to have Marisa come in, I'm going to want to see if Jesus will come in. I always ask him to come in. And I'd like to ask him a question and see. He wouldn't answer it in the Bible, and he wouldn't answer it in the Urantia book. So would he be so kind as to give us the answer? I don't know. Because to me, this shrewd steward, you'll hear the story, the shrewd steward is basically ripping off his master. His master has given him a duty to take care of all the goods, sort of like a manager of his estate. And but he's like stealing. And then he's got to give everything back to the master, and he goes out and he makes these side deals with all these other people, and yes, that's shrewd, but in a way he's making favor with all these people that he's making deals with, but at the same time he's ripping off his master. But Jesus doesn't want to explain it. So let me read it and we'll see it, and then we have another parable of the rich man and the beggar. So how are we doing on time? Oh my God, have I been egads? Let me just do this one parable. God, I've been talking that long? Oh, I'm so sorry. Egads, haven't done anything. Friday. Let's just get through the parable of the shrewd steward, because I do have a question for Jesus on that, and hopefully Marisa is around. She's got some family things I don't want to discuss right now that she's having a little bit of heartache on. But hopefully she'll bring that to your attention if she wants to. So the parable of the shrewd steward. One evening, Simon Zelotes, and I like Simon Zelotes. He's sort of like a kung fu kind of guy. He's always ready to fight if necessary, but he's really a godly man. He really is. One evening, Simon Zelotes, he's one of the apostles, commenting on one of Jesus' statements, said, "Master, what did you mean when you said today that many of the children of the world are wiser in their generation than are the children of the kingdom, since they are skillful in making friends with the mammon?" Mammon, what is that, secular goods? The mammon of unrighteousness, money, possessions, what have you. Here's what Jesus answered. Jesus said, "Some of you, before you entered the kingdom, were very shrewd in dealing with your business associates. If you're unjust and often unfair, you are nonetheless prudent and far-seeing, in that you transacted your business with an eye single, to your present profit and future safety. Likewise, should you now so order your lives in the kingdom as to provide for your present joy, while you also make certain of your future enjoyment of treasures laid up in heaven. Storing up your treasures for heaven, not for earth. If you are so diligent in making gains for yourselves when in the service of self, why should you show less diligence in gaining souls for the kingdom, since you are now servants of the brotherhood of man and stewards of God? You may all learn a lesson from the story of a certain rich man who had a shrewd but unjust steward. This steward had not only oppressed his master's clients for his... Okay, I hope that doesn't knock me off. Marisa, you cannot be calling me on the phone here. I think that was Marisa. Don't call me on the phone, please. I can't answer it. Come on here, Marisa, if you're on there, come on here. Let me bring you on. Okay, so let me go on. The steward had not only oppressed his master's clients for his own selfish gain, but he had also directly wasted and squandered his master's funds. When all this finally came to the ears of his master, he called the steward before him and asked the meaning of these rumors and required that he should give an immediate accounting of his stewardship and prepare to turn his master's affairs over to another. Babe, you need something? Tawny's at a birthday party, so I think she's going to go pick up Tawny. Yeah. Oh, maybe that was Drew that was trying to go. No, she wouldn't call me. Oh, let me get back here. Let's get back to the story. So the master says he asked the meaning of these rumors and required that he should give an immediate accounting of his stewardship and prepare to turn his master's affairs over to somebody else, to another. Now this unfaithful steward, this is Jesus. Now this unfaithful steward began to say to himself, "What shall I do, since I'm about to lose this stewardship? I have not the strength to dig or to beg, and I am shamed. I know what I will do to make certain that when I am put out of this stewardship, I will be welcomed into the houses of all who do business with my master." And then, calling in each of his lord's debtors, he said to the first, "How much do you owe my master?" And he answered, 100 measures of oil. Then said the steward, "Take your wax board, sit down quickly, and change it to 50. So he's helping out the other guy, but in essence, he's stealing from his master. Saying, okay, only give me 50 then, even though he owed 100. Then he said to another debtor, "How much do you owe?" And he replied, 100 measures of wheat. Then said the steward, "Take your bond and write 80." What is 80? 20 is a score, I think, so that's 80. So he's taken off 20. And this he did with numerous other debtors. And so did this dishonest steward seek to make friends for himself after he would be discharged from his stewardship. Even his lord and master, when he subsequently found out about this, was compelled to admit that his unfaithful steward had at least shown sagacity in the manner in which he had sought to provide for future days of want and adversity. And it is in this way that Jesus, and Jesus says, and it is in this way that the sons of this world sometimes show more wisdom in their preparation for the future than do the children of light. I say to you who profess to be acquiring treasure in heaven, take lessons from those who make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness. I don't get that. Take lessons from those who make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness, and likewise so conduct your lives, that you make eternal friendship with the forces of righteousness, in order that, when all things earthly fail, you shall be joyfully received into the eternal habitations. He goes on, he says, I affirm that he who is faithful in little will also be faithful in much. while he who is unrighteous in little will also be unrighteous in much. If you have not shown foresight and integrity in the affairs of this world, how can you hope to be faithful and prudent when you are trusted with the stewardship of the true riches of the heavenly kingdom? If you are not good stewards and faithful bankers, if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will be foolish enough to give you great treasure in your own name? And again, I assert that no man can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one while he despises the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. When the Pharisees who were present heard this, they began to sneer and scoff, since they were much given to the acquirement of riches. And these unfriendly hearers sought to engage Jesus in unprofitable argumentation. But he refused to debate with his enemies. When the Pharisees fell to wrangling among themselves, their loud speaking attracted large numbers of the multitude encamped thereabouts. And when they began to dispute with each other, Jesus withdrew, going to his tent for the night. Come on, you guys. Come on. Come on. Okay. Oh, the ding, ding, ding doesn't always work. So anyway, I think that's as far as I can get today. And I'm hoping Marisa is coming on now. I think she might be. Let's see if she has a chance. Okay. Hang tight, folks. Yeah, approve. Let's send an invite. Let's see if we can get Marisa. Gosh, I hate to put Marisa on the spot. Oh, you're there.
I'm not doing camera. I look too crazy right now.
You're not going to come on?
No, I'm on there. I mean,
okay.
You can hear me. You just don't see me.
Just audio? Okay.
Yeah, you'll just see a little bubble with me holding a snuggle up right there because my eyes are all puffy from crying. So.
Okay. Well, tell us. Why are you crying?
Oh, I'm just upset about Poochie, or the Poochie, the Guru Master. That's what I've called her forever. But Poochie could have had her own Facebook page for a while. I posted her so much.
Well, explain who Poochie is to people who don't know who Poochie is.
Our 12-year-old poodle Chihuahua, and we go, oh, we love our kids, but we really love our dog.
Yeah, that's true.
So I noticed yesterday when I was talking to Jeff, I reached over and he was holding her, and I reached over and kind of like pet the side of her head, and she had two big lumps, like kind of like her lymph, whatever, and on the sides of her throat, and I find that interesting because both of your dogs ended up like dying because of something having to do with their throat too. But
yeah, it was Max.
Yeah, he may have had what she had. She's having a hard time swallowing and stuff like that. But she just have a lump on each side. And then we went yesterday and we had them test it, and it came back as being lymphoma. So I don't know anything about. But yeah, we're just kind of freaking out. But
I know it's amazing what pets do to our lives, and God, it's just sad. I'm really sorry, Marisa. I'm really sorry. I love Poochie too. I mean, she's a real blessing. And
I know
Jesus loves her too, because she's always digging every time Jesus comes in.
I know she's like a little museum dog. She always knows when the guides are there. I was just like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do without? And then we can't not have Poochie. Poochie has to be here. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know that she's close to. I mean, 13. I mean, she's almost 13, and I don't know how long little dogs live for. I mean, I'm sure that she's gone way over the limit, but she's healthy and stuff like that. Otherwise, but so they said if we get her the chemo, but it's going to cost us like $18,000. So I'm going to do a fundraiser.
You know what? The chemo's going to kill her. I mean,
I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we'll figure it out. There's a bunch of different things, but so they said that with dogs they respond pretty well to it. But we're gonna figure it out. They've got like 3 or 4 different options for us. So we're gonna go in tomorrow or Monday or something after. They've taken more tests today and do little chest X-rays and stuff like that. And so they're gonna find out whether it's like an A cells or T cells or B cells or something like that. And see if it's spread. They said if it's spread, then there's really kind of no reason to treat that or whatever. But so far so good. When they looked at X-rays today, there wasn't anything other than where on her throat area. So that's good news. But yeah. So anyways, that's why I'm kind of upset. But I will see if I can channel when I'm upset. I was like, I
No,
can't.
you don't need to.
No,
That's
I mean,
okay.
and channeling always makes me feel better because it connects me to my higher self and it gets the guides all coming through. I can feel the guides, I can see them sort of in my head, but I can't see them the way that I usually see them. Like, like boom, there they are. So
Right.
what, let me see if I can call in the call. I mean, they're right here. They're all around me. Geez, I've never actually seen them in a circle around me before. That's interesting. Huh, maybe when you're sad or bummed, the guides, oh, they said that when you get sad and upset and you fall down into yourself, that the guides surround us completely. They said 14 by 14, whatever that
I wonder,
means.
wonder what that means.
14 by 14, they're saying that we have 14 guides. And oh, it's for chakra. It's like two on one side, two on the other, two on one side, two on the other. It's 14 by 14. So there's 14 on one side of you, 14 on the other. So 28 total.
Our team is 28. I always thought our team would be about 10.
There's,
Where the team
yeah,
is our spirit, the Holy Spirit, our soul, Christ's spirit, um, our ascended masters, our assigned angels, our guides, our soul family members. I guess maybe if you add in all our soul family members who are keeping an
no, they don't
eye on
count as
us.
our team. They don't count as our team though, because our soul family members can go rogue, and there can be just, like Grandma Betty's always barging in, and
Yeah,
that
that's
she'll
true.
come in the second we say her name. She'll be like, "You called?" Um, but
That's right.
she's always wanting to help. But no, they're saying actually it's not 28. They said 14 by 14. That's interesting. 14 by 14 that stand around us. They said 14 of them, and then there's the reflection of all 14 of them. So it's almost like a mirrored reflection of them. But the
Hmm.
full mirror, that's the reflection. The mirror is Christ. Christ is the mirror
Wow.
guides are reflecting into, and we're living kind of in between the
Wow.
two.
Well, I don't know if Jesus heard or you heard our reach yesterday for
Yeah, I
yesterday's
heard
show.
120,000 people.
It's like 120,000 people it went out to yesterday.
That's
That's
crazy.
amazing. I mean, that's a force multiplier compared to what it normally is.
Why?
But
How come? Because you did it differently, or just because Facebook decided to let it through?
you're fading in and out, and you sound like you're in
Facebook,
and out of it.
Facebook allowed because Facebook allowed it through, or because
I don't
um,
know.
you did
I,
something differently.
I don't know. I have no idea. Just I do my usual boosting from my tithe, and all of a sudden it went out all over the place, and we picked up some new followers from Taiwan.
That's great.
Taiwan, yeah, Taiwan, Greenland now, Greenland, Taiwan, South America or South Africa,
Taiwan is where
and
you lived, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
1966, 1967. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of a crazy place right now. But I was going to throw a question out to Jesus
Yeah. Ask a
on
question.
this.
Let me see if I can get an answer.
Do you think you can get an answer on it?
If I don't get it, I won't. I won't lie and say, "Oh, here is the." I won't. If I don't get it, I'll just say I can't get it. But might as well try.
Well, it seemed like the story. Did you listen to the story of the master and his steward? His steward was in charge of the master's business,
Hmm.
and and so the master had business with a lot of people, probably buying and selling goods, and the steward was basically ripping off not only his master, but he's ripping off his clients. So he'd be overcharging the clients, and then he would be siphoning that off for himself. But then he wasn't even delivering the money, let's say, to the master. So the master said, "All right, there's rumors that you're doing some bad things, so I want a complete accounting." So before he met with his master, he went out to all of his vendors, and like with the first vendor, he said, "Okay, how much do you owe us?" And the guy says, "Well, we owe you 100 barrels of oil." And he said, "You know what? Take off 50. Just give me 50." And then he'd go to everybody else. And then he went to all these other people, and he's making deals with all these people so that he would have a place to go to work, because these people would see that he's doing favor to them. And even the master ends up, the sagacity, they use the word sagacity, had the sagacity to work this all out just to protect himself after he was going to get fired. But Jesus doesn't explain it. The apostles, I didn't get to the point here in the story today where the apostles wanted Jesus to explain it, but Jesus wouldn't explain it. He actually made it sound like, I don't know, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, because it says I have to read this one little part. He says, and again, I assert that no man can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one while he despises the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. I don't know. If you can,
You can't serve man and what? And something at the end, would you say?
well, it's a biblical term. Mammon is money and possessions and things like that. In other words, you cannot serve possessions and money and God. You can't serve you. In other words, you can't love them both. I mean, if you're going to devote yourself to one, you can't devote yourself to the other. And he says, and again, I assert that no man can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one while he despises the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon is worldly goods, worldly things.
Okay.
But in regards to the steward who's cheating, I mean, he's like a guy owes 100 barrels of oil to his boss, and the steward goes, just give me 50. So the guy that only has to give up 50 is going to be happy with the steward. He's going to go, oh, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's saving me 50 barrels of oil. But then let me see where he says it. This may be putting you on the spot, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Let me see if I can get to it real quick here. Let's see. And it is in this way that the sons of this world sometimes show more wisdom in their preparation for the future. That would be like the steward. The sons of this world sometimes show more wisdom in their preparation for the future than do the children of light. I say to you who profess to be acquiring treasure in heaven, take lessons from those who make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness. Take lessons from those who make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness. And likewise, so conduct your lives that you make eternal friendship with the forces of righteousness, in order that when all things earthly fail, you shall be joyfully received into the eternal habitations. I don't understand it. Oh no, I lost Marissa. Oh no. There we go. Okay. Well, that was going to be a hard one for her to answer anyway. So anyway, Marissa, I'm so sorry about Poochie. Your phone probably just died. And you're certainly not in the right frame of mind to be doing some channeling today. So go take care of Poochie. Go take care of, oh gosh, this is going to be heartbreaking for my grandkids, Madison and Buddy. But hang in there, and you guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you again. I think you've got a show coming up on Sunday. I do. I will be taking this Saturday off. That will be tomorrow, and I've got so much work to do. There's so much work at our house right now. We had a tenant that just bailed out on us and left the place trashed. So anyway, we're doing our best to get things back in order again. And then Sunday I like to come on and I'll find the biblical passages that comport with the story as we've been having it this week, and I'll try to do that at the same time on Sunday. I think the times change in the United States, so right now I'm doing my show down here at 5 o'clock, but I'll be doing it at 6 o'clock, so I'm coming in at 5 o'clock. So it doesn't change. You guys will change, but my show will still be coming on at the same time it has been. So my dogs, I tell you, I think they're callers. Star! Star. God, crazy dogs. So anyway, okay, so I may be back here on Sunday, and I won't be here tomorrow. So I hope everybody has a great Friday night and have yourself a great weekend. Don't forget, the eternal message of Jesus is do the will of the Father. It's not hard to do. It's just freely giving up your will. That's all. You freely give up your will. You just very quietly say, okay, God, I freely give you my will. Take these burdens, lift them from me. Oh, it looks like Marisa's trying to get back on again. Let's see what's going on. Let's see. No, that doesn't work. Let's see if this works. Send invite. Let's see if she's going to come back in again. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like,
I
oh my gosh. Okay.
I thought it,
I hit the wrong button. My eyes are.
oh, okay. Oh, there you are. I see you
Yeah, my
now.
eyes are all a little bit poofy. No, Jeff always calls when we're doing this, and this now when he calls, if he calls the phone that I'm on, it knocks me offline. So it's like a
Oh,
new level of Jeff coming in when I'm about to channel, because he always come like calls right as I'm about to channel, and goes hi, and I'm like, why are you calling? Oh, just to say hi. It's like because he can feel me disconnect from his energy, and he can feel me. We asked about it in class. We said, why does Jeff always call the second I'm about to like hit like, you know, start
to
to
go.
or yeah,
Yeah.
he always calls right then, and they said it's because he's a grounding force for me.
Oh, okay.
So, but I mean, it's still annoying when I get knocked offline. um, but anyways, they were asking about the thing, and so I started to say a prayer, and that's when he called. And when I went to hit ignore on him, it hung up on us here. But the about the money thing, about money, they were saying it's not just money; it's the idea of money. Just like there's an idea. This is Jesus. He says, as there is an idea with what wealth is, there is an idea with what a godly life is. If we obsess about having a godly life, then we are not necessarily living a godly life because we're obsessing about the idea of having one rather than just having one. If we're obsessed over something that we want, or if we are obsessed over something, we likely do not have it. So if we're obsessing over having a godly life, that means that we don't believe that we are worthy of having a godly life, that we're not worthy of this. And therefore, we're obsessing out of the fear of not having something. The same goes for wealthiness. When somebody thinks of being rich, they think of a person, they think of a place, they think of a thing, they think of a lifestyle, they think of a group of people, maybe. They think of maybe a movie star or somebody that they consider to be wealthy or rich. When people can ask themselves what they think of when they think of wealthy or rich, and they think of something that is not necessarily pleasing in the mind or eye of God in their own mind, then that is an obsession with something that they don't think that they should have or that they don't think is good. So what we are speaking of is when people are thinking of wanting something rather than just being within God and knowing and understanding and being what it is that we were here to be, that is what takes us away from quote the master. So when we say you cannot be a master, you cannot have two masters. You cannot have the master of the wealth and fame and money and all of these things of this world, and a master of God, or of God. Sorry, Peter keeps trying to come in. He's like, hey, hey, hey. He's like, I want to take care of Poochie. He keeps running over. Okay, Peter, hold on. Thank you. Sorry, he kept cutting me off. What people must understand is that when we say money, when we say worldly things, we don't mean basic food, a house over your head, a bed to sleep in, and things to clothe yourselves in. What we speak of when we speak of this is wanting extravagantly large things, larger than what you feel you have the capacity to have. Many people have the capacity to have person.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Because that's where
You're
they're.
either moving around too much or something because you're kind of going in and out.
Oh, really? Maybe it's yours. I don't
Yeah.
know. So we have the capacity to,
Nope, you just broke up again.
based on our
You're
beliefs. Oh, it's breaking up.
yeah, you're frozen. You're
Uh-oh.
moving you're moving around too much or
I'm not
something.
moving. I'm completely
Just
still. I'm sitting
walking.
still.
Now you're frozen. You're frozen again. You're frozen.
There.
No, you're still frozen.
I don't. Check. Frozen. Maybe it might be frozen on your side. I wonder if it's frozen for everybody.
I'm not frozen. You're the one that was frozen.
Let me see. Let me see real quick. Tiffany's gonna check her.
Well, right now, I'm looking at your earlobe.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not even on there. Period. Oh, because you started a new video, right? Oh, there we are. I'm on there. I'm not frozen.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I kind of am. Yeah, it is. Oh no. It's good. It's good. Okay, I forgot what I was saying. Okay, they said, okay, get back here, Jesus, please. He says, serving a master and serving a thing or an idea, something is something that you cannot do in addition to serving God, because when you serve God, you allow God into your life and you allow God to mold the clay that you are into what it needs to be. And understanding and knowing that God is taking care of you and everything will be taken care of will suffice, in understanding and knowing that everything that you need, everything that you want, everything that you desire will come to you. And understanding also that when you obsess about material things, meaning you don't have something, that in itself is serving another master, because you're serving the master of fear. So we have fear, and then we have love. And love, in a sense, love, in a sense, is the true God. Love, courage, understanding, faith, and protection, and what's the word? The word is not all inclusiveness. It's togetherness. Togetherness with God.
All encompassing.
Yes, it's like it's everything all together. And when you're down there going like, oh man, I want this. Or it's like when we say, here, buddy, I brought you a surprise. Look, here's a Hot Wheel. And he goes, but I wanted 4. It's like, well, I know you wanted 4, but I brought you 1, and I thought that you'd be excited and surprised. And he'll be excited and surprised, but then he wants more. So that's what he's saying that we do with God is we'll say, oh, thank you for giving me this body and this life, but I want more. I want more. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense, Jesus, because they say, like in New Age, and they say, to set your intention on something that you want. Or we have the snow globe, where we decide that we want something, and we can imagine that thing coming into our snow globe, and then it happens. And Jesus says, but this is not an obsession. He says the very difference is serving. The word here is serving. Are you serving 2 masters? No, because you cannot. One will not allow you to serve the other, and you will begin to hate the other if you're trying to serve both. You'll go back and forth. But serving, not just he's saying that the reason why people don't understand it is because they don't take attention to the fact that he says the word serving. So when you're serving a master, that's you with the intention to do what that master says, what it wants you to do, and be whatever it wants you to be. If wealth is one of the masters, and your idea of wealth, say your idea of wealth is like, like a rap star or something, it's like, it's like that idea in your mind is going to be your God. So what they were saying before it started breaking up was, you have to get a picture in your mind of what it is that you're wanting or obsessing over or desiring, because that is in essence your God. So like, say you're like obsessing about a car. I want this car, I want this car, I want this car, I want this car, I want this car so bad, I want this car so bad. Now, all you think about is this car, this car, this car, this car. Then that isn't necessarily an obsession until you begin to cut corners to get this car and go against your beliefs and your values and what God's laid out for us, and just like stealing the car or like thinking about doing that and stuff. It's like now you're obsessing and thinking about how you're going to get it regardless of what anybody's feelings or emotions or anything are inside. So what Jesus is saying, in order for you to know that you're serving God, and he says many of you don't even like the word serving. You don't like the word serving whatsoever, because you don't want to be a servant. You don't want to be a servant, and you don't need to be. He says this is the key to this parable is many people will serve a God, serve a God. All you must do is honor and stay present in yourself, and know and understand that God is inside of you. The things that you want are outside of you. The things that you desire are outside of you. Your obsessions are outside of you. So pulling for things that are outside of you constantly without the acknowledgement and being present in God is everyone's first mistake. So just as this channel is upset about her dog, she must just stay true to being present within me, within us, and we will make sure that things work out the way that they're supposed to work out. And then her mind says, but wait, I want them to work out this way. I want them to work out this way. Let's not use Poochie for an example. Let's use any other animal for an example. What if one is to pray for their animal to live for 10 more years? And let us just say that they were supposed to get another animal 2 years later, and that animal was supposed to help to heal, say, the child that gets sick in 10 years, and that animal was sent here to be that child's soul partner. There's all these things that are laid out, and animals are very, very, very carefully placed within their owners' lives. So many people will have many, many animals, but there will only be a certain amount that we call the star animals. Oh, you're the star. Sorry, you're like your
Yeah.
star animal. That's funny.
Yeah.
You have a dog named
Our
Star.
dog's name? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Our
They
the
said
mama
star.
dog is Star.
Yeah, star animals. So star animals come in directly from the conduit that creates the Christed energy within the soul and allows us to continue to evolving to become like Christ. So these little animals come in as Christ, carrying the frequency of Christ. So it would be like having a animal come in that has a tape recorder on them, and that tape recorder is playing constantly all the information and everything that you would learn through all 12 grades to become graduated. Let's just say after you graduate from high school, you become Christed. So this animal would come in when you were a baby, maybe, and they'd have all this information that they would be playing out of them silently. Obviously you can't hear it, but your spirit can. So these animals are coming in to give your spirit the information that your spirit needs, that it's not getting from your higher self, from Christ, or from any part of you, because your spirit is just blind and dumb, for the lack of a better word. It's just they're just, oh, I'm just gonna have a good time, and that's your spirit. But it's so pure and it's pure, so true. But the second it goes into fear, just as we said yesterday, it becomes your ego. So the animals come in to help to alleviate and remove the need to be an ego, which is a protective state of the spirit, and allow the spirit to be in spirit. You'll see many grumpy old guys. They're like, oh, I hate life, and and then they get to their dog and they're going oochie goochie boo boo, and the dog's licking them all in the mouth and the face, and they're laughing. And this is because they're getting in touch with their spirit, because the animals bring in that ability to make us completely emotionally mature. It's an emotional maturity that Christ is. Christ is not about information. It's not about knowledge. It's not about wisdom. It's about emotional maturity and being in spirit and understanding how to deal with anything that comes your way without lashing out in anger, without fear, without jealousy, without wrath or envy or revenge or any of these things. So the animals help us to evolve and grow. And many times a soul will say, I'm really stunted down there. My spirit is stunted. It's not getting past a certain level. Let's bring in a pet. And then the soul takes a little piece of its heart and it puts it inside the pet's field, and it stays in the pet's field until the pet is no longer with the individual. So many times pets will expire and leave this place, but they will remain there. The little piece of the heart of the soul, that is the piece that you connect with. That's a piece that you love, because you can feel that love. And that, like we said yesterday, the soul is the father. The soul is the father. So when a piece of the father comes in through these animals, you can feel the love, the inclusiveness, and you can feel the binding truth that is between you and it. But it's not necessarily the animal, it's the father. It's the father that is expressing himself through these animals. And it's just like a 24/7 tape recorder, just playing, because the father doesn't bring information, it doesn't bring wisdom or anything of that sort, or it's just the feeling of love and inclusiveness and complete belonging.
Hmm. I just say animals are fourth dimensional.
They're beyond fourth dimension. They just said they are. The animals are fourth dimensional as in being, like their little being is, and that's why they can see all the spirits and stuff around them. But he's saying that animals are actually have this spectrum of 28 dimensions, that they can go in and out of all the different dimensions, and it just all the dimensions that we are in. Actually, we're in 56 dimensions, so they're 28 times 2, 56.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, so they because they're in the mirror. So we're in the physical world. Remember there was all the guides, the 14 guides, and then you see your animal. Your animal's over on the other side of the mirror, and they're there to kind of like push you back into your body because they're in the illusion world. And that makes sense. The spirits and all that stuff. So they live in the illusion world, and that's why they sleep so much.
Hmm.
Animals do sleep a lot if you think about it. I mean, they wake up to eat and bark, and then they go back to sleep.
Yeah, cats sleep 20 hours a day,
Wow.
and they roam around. They roam around at night because they're nocturnal.
You want to know why they're nocturnal? Peter just said, he says, because they're protecting our astral bodies
Oh,
when we're sleeping. So they go and they sit on the space where our astral body comes and goes, and they protect that little portal.
huh.
And then dogs actually sit on our light body. They sit like, so say leaving out of my body and I'm standing over here. I'm looking at my physical body like it's, kind of like over here. And then I'm out of my body channeling. Poochie sits on my energy body to protect me from astral beings connecting to me. That's why she digs when Jesus comes in, because Jesus protects the astral body because he's the fully matured emotional body in each of us. That makes so much sense.
Hmm.
They're little gatekeepers. They protect us from the energy world.
My dogs can be quiet all day until I start my show.
Hmm.
And then they just go nuts. They just start barking and barking and barking and barking. So I think they see the spirits. I think they see whatever universe personalities show up for my show here. Um, it drives them nuts. They just go crazy. I have to use my little ding, ding, dinger, ding, ding,
Oh,
ding, 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 dinger. Shut up! Quit barking
well,
out
they're trying to
there.
protect you. They're just protecting you from anything that's coming in. And they're
I
probably like,
know,
oh my gosh, the house was empty. Now all of a sudden we've got a million
but
people inside of our house.
yeah.
But what they're saying is their spirit always stays within us, and their spirit is within us. So when we have illnesses and sicknesses, they go, they take it all on, and their little bodies take it on. So when it becomes
Yeah.
much, that's how they get sick. That's why I'm concerned about somebody in our family has to have something going on in the throat because your two dogs now, Poochie and then Phantom, it was all right here, the jaw and the throat that they.
Yeah. Max was the throat.
Mhm.
Max was the throat. And now it's Poochie.
Yeah,
Remember my brother Randy, he had a
I was
throat
thinking about how
throat cancer.
I was like, uh-oh, I wonder if it's like so we're going to do a class later on this week or coming up here, and we're going to figure out like generational things, like how like a whole family can have like cancer in it, and one person will get it, another person will get it. And so we're going to figure out how to heal that so that we can heal the generational stuff in our family with the throat, because the throat's obviously an issue.
Hmm.
So mom has the thyroid, I think. I'm not sure she still has that. I think once you have it, you always do. But anyways, so yeah, the guides, let me see. Peter says, let's hear it for the pup. Let's hear it for the pup. He goes, send money to, no, he's got like a one of those like the people that do the we've got blah, blah, blah. He's talking really fast like an auctioneer.
I'm picturing wearing one of those hats with the dog ears hanging
Oh
down.
my God, that's so funny. Wearing this thing with a big card on his head, and on the back of the card it says something. I don't know. Are the auctioneers wear the card? Why do they wear a hat with a card on their head?
Well, you live in Las Vegas. I think that's you
Oh,
think of a dealer or something.
hmm,
Think of a dealer with a hat with it has a card on it or something,
yeah,
but they don't do that in Vegas. But I think in movies
yeah.
or books or whatever, that's what you
Oh, are you
picture as a hat with a
gonna
card in
win?
it.
Are you gonna make me win at gambling, Peter? He goes, no. He said, no one ever wins. Oh, listen to this. He says, no one ever wins. For when you win, just as easily as the money came, it will go. And then your obsession about getting it back will be as if you lost something that you had always had. That in turn then makes money your master. So
Yeah, that's true.
the obsession of it, and even thinking of like, oh man, I spent too much money, last week or last month, or I didn't get this or I didn't get that, and I would have made this and I would have made that. All of that is serving a master that you do not want to serve, because if you're just living within your present, you realize how much you need, how much your guides will get you to the penny, every cent that you need for your overhead and for the things that you need in general. It's the things that are over and above it that you need to decide what you are good with having, you just think about it once, let God know, and then let God take care of the rest. And that's why the snow globe is okay, because the snow globe is thinking something, pulling it in, and letting God do the rest. No obsession involved.
Hmm.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and I was talking earlier, 10th commandment, just be grateful for what you got. Be grateful for what you got. Yeah, you can ask for things,
Mhm.
but like we were talking about prayer yesterday, you know, prayer is a spiritual thing, and when you're praying for material things, the prayer may not get answered,
Mhm.
or it may be delayed. So that's why Jesus was saying that our prayers should be spiritual in nature, um, and not material in nature. And I think when you pray for people, I think most people pray for their family, for their country, for their things that are close to them.
Mhm.
And I think that's spirit. And I don't think people go, "Oh, please God, give me that yellow car. I really,
Oh,
really want that yellow
oh,
car.
did you?
No, never mind that. I want the black car. Oh, you know what? I don't like black cars. You know
Oh, but
what?
I'm
Don't
not
give
worthy.
me a card because I'm not worthy."
Yep. That's the prayers that we hear. They're saying that's the prayers that we hear. I'm worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm worthy. I'm not worthy. Because there's a voice that runs through you that you don't hear, and it's the shadow or the reflection of your intuition. So the voice that you hear going through your head is your voice. But there's another voice that's counter to that that'll say, "Nope, I'm not worthy. No, I'm not worthy. No, I'm not worthy." So it's very confusing when you begin to pray for the material things, because then it's very confusing for the universe. But understanding and knowing that when you are praying to be in God's good grace, or be in your own good grace, or be present within yourself, and and live a happy life, and be joyous, and if you are joyous, don't you think that you'll have the things that you want? So many people will say, "Oh, I want this car, and I want this house, and I want this, and I want this much income, and I want this person in my life, and I want this person to love me, and I want our relationship to be like this." Well, if you knew what happiness was, you would have it. So your best thinking has gotten you to where you are at this very moment, praying for all the things that you don't have. So we suggest turning it over and just say, "Hey, you know what? I haven't been able to get myself pure happiness up until this point. Why don't I leave it up to God? Why don't I leave it up to God
Hmm.
and just pray for happiness?" Because you
Yeah.
can't be happy in a sick environment. You can't be happy in a abusive environment. You can't be happy in a job that you hate. You can't be happy in anything else. Happiness is the key. So being happy, and nobody can be happy doing something bad. They can be malicious and vengeful and spiteful, and that brings a rise into some people, more of a perverted rise into them of like getting to hurt others. But this happiness is pure joy, and it is connection with God. That's why you cry when you're happy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. When you get super happy and cry.
I
Yeah,
always feel like that's the Holy Spirit, and
it is.
that brings out that happy cry.
It's when the Holy Spirit gets poured down upon us and it touches into our consciousness and it gets around us. But we only can totally open up to the Holy Spirit when we are happy. What?
Hmm.
Wait, so we can't connect with the Holy Spirit unless we're happy? And so what do we connect with when we're sad? That's horrible. They said that's why you need to pray to be happy. Because
Oh.
if you're sad and in despair, then you may be in fear, and then you're screaming out for the help of a God that you don't think is there for you. So it's almost like you're screaming out for the wrong God, because you're like, "Help me, why have you left me?" It's like you're afraid. So you go into fear. So you're calling in more like the Antichrist energy. And there's gods just down there as well. And those gods will give you exactly what you want and need, but there's a price to pay for it. So
Hmm.
what Jesus is saying is, he says, don't get caught up on, is this in spirit or is this not in spirit? Just ask to be put into spirit so that your prayers will be heard in, that your prayers will be heard, and the things that you should not be praying will not be heard. And then be done with it.
Hmm.
Oh, look who's there.
Tawny.
Happy birthday, Tawny. One day late.
Yeah, she's coming back. She went to somebody else's birthday party today,
Oh, cool.
so
That's
she's
the
coming home
announcement,
now.
bud.
There's going to be a Tawny alert here in a
Yeah.
second. She's
I'll
going
say
to come
hi,
in.
and I'll take off to go home. I'm looking for bounce houses for Buddy's birthday to see if I should get one, because he wants to have the party at our house. But
Oh,
but it's like tons of money to do it over at another place. So um
yeah, yeah. I know. We did that with Tawny once. So we rented. We actually had one, but it got a
yeah.
bunch of holes in it, and then
Oh,
then we rented one year, and That's when we ended up having a little problem with Esther, but
Oh,
that's another story
yeah, I know.
because her feet were dirty
Oh,
because
that's
she was the dirt. I mean, that's what the house in Culiacan is, dirt.
yeah.
And the bouncy house was in the dirt. So all the kids are running around and they bounce around. They bounce out of the house and run around to the entrance to get back in, and they're all got dirt all the way up and down their legs.
Well, unless they learn to levitate, then they can't avoid the dirt.
And she was supposed to be looking so pert and pretty in her birthday dress, but she had mud.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
oh well, that's another story. Okay, well listen, let's wrap it up for the day
Did that
today.
that answer the question? And
Wait,
that answered the question then, huh?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll have
You'll
to think
listen to
about
it,
it.
I'll listen to it, and we'll go, oh yeah, we did. They said it has to do with the serving and it has to do with obsession. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I was still a little confused because the steward, I don't know, who was he serving? He
Oh,
was, he was,
the steward was trying to make it appear as if he was something that he was not. So he was
yeah.
manipulating the situation so that he could be lazy and make these deals and everything and make it seem as if he was working hard. So he was not. Yeah, I don't see how it has anything to do with God either, though. So the master is supposed to be the is supposed to be God in the situation, and we're supposed to be people. So he was manipulating God in a way to try and make God think that he was doing something he really wasn't, when in reality, God's going to know no matter what.
I guess so. Maybe that's it. Because we didn't get far enough in the story today, but the apostles didn't understand it either, and they were trying to ask Jesus, and Jesus refused to explain it to them.
Okay.
So, yeah, he wouldn't explain it to him. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to look in the Bible now. I'm going to have to see if I can find in the story if there is an explanation. If I do a show on Sunday, which I plan on doing, which will be strictly Bible. Only all the things we've been talking about this week, I'll have to go back and research and see if I can pull them up from various places within the New Testament. But and you got a show coming up. Why don't you plug that? You got something
Oh,
coming up on Sunday,
on
don't you?
Sunday, I'm not sure what time it's at, but just go to discoverintuition.com, and we're going to be doing a class with one of the girls that's working with me now. She's a really good intuitive. She's a student, pretty new. I think she even took my Reiki class, but she's a personal trainer, a nutritionist. She knows all about like health and stuff like that. And we did a class on weight loss last week, and we channeled the guides on how to lose weight and have like a good physique and all that. And she's had so many questions she wanted to ask. So I said, well, why don't we just do a class then? And we were going to do it today or yesterday, Thursday, but then she ended up putting it on Sunday. And I was like, oh no, that's going to go over Papa's show. But hopefully the times won't conflict. But if they do, it's just Bible anyways. And we don't want to freak the Bible people out with channeling. But so that's Sunday. So just check it out. And if you can't come to any of my classes, you can still sign up and then we send you a copy of it. So you can get a copy. And then I do all the healing on you, the attunements and all that stuff that we do during the class.
And that's at discoverintuition.com.
Discoverintuition.com, yeah. And my other
Okay,
down, and that's the one I have posted on our website. So I need to change that. But yeah, that, and then make sure to come to our Wednesday night meditations.
there
Um,
you go.
yeah. So that's about it. That's about it. And
Okay, well, listen, give the kiddos a hug for me,
uh,
and I'll keep Poochie in my prayers as well,
yeah.
and both of you, your mental state and your heart.
She's Jeff's
To
second child, my first child. She's like,
Yeah,
it's like that. She's everything. It's just like, oh, geez.
that's right.
I have trust and faith that God will make sure that she's okay for at least her lifespan, which is a couple more years. I just know that everything's gonna work out okay, but we just have to hang in there. So, anyways.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she's got a number of years still left within her, and she can live this without having a lot of chemicals put inside of her, and her getting sick, and that's the part you don't want to see. We didn't want that to happen to Max, so we just let Max live out his life,
Oh,
and he did. What's that?
did he have cancer? Did he have something wrong with him?
Yeah, something like that in his throat, and the vet said, look, we can do this and that and the other, but the chances of him surviving the cure, so to speak, was very small. And so he said, or you can just leave it be and let him live out his life, and that's what we did.
I
We
bet
let him live out his life, and then
like
when it was over, he just done. rolled over and died.
Aw.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
So sad, so sad. What Peter just said is, but they're little spirits like a spring, and they spring forth back into their master's field, which is ours, and they sit there and they wait until another like body is there, and when our soul needs it, the help there, and then the spring goes boing, and it jumps back into the other one. So the spring is the spirit of our soulmate animal. So Max, even though he was Drew's dog, he had your little soulmate spring inside of him. So he had that inside of him. So it's just kind of sitting there coiled up behind your occiput. So whenever you guys get another dog, if it's the time that you need him, it'll go boing, and the spring will jump into that other dog, and it'll just start acting kind of the same as the last one.
Hmm.
Really interesting. So we're just a little spring. They're a spring. Wow. So how many pets do we each have? They said some people have up to 19 spirit pets, because they
Wow.
that many, and that's just some people, but most people, they said, usually have anywhere between 1 to 4 around them at any given time in their life. And those springs
Huh.
go into children under the age of 8 too. That's
Hmm.
interesting. So remember when Tawny kept channeling messages and stuff, that's when one of your springs went into her to bring information to you that you weren't receiving.
Hmm.
Wow, that makes so much sense. It's like your soul was like, we can't get through to him. Throw it in Tawny. And then she would
Oh.
bring information to you, but it wasn't just saying the information, it would just be transmitted to you, just like they said, a 24/7 tape recorder playing all the information that you need to know, but it was coming through Tawny, which is another reason why you guys probably feel so connected too, because it's that soul connection there. And then the spring
Hmm.
jumps back out of them and goes back into you and waits to go into something else. That's really cool.
Interesting.
That means we can adopt pets instead of being like, oh no, I need to get a pet that was born after mine passed or whatever. It means we can adopt a pet or rescue a pet, and our soulmate, or our pet soul energy can go into that pet. That's good to know. Thank you, Peter. That made me feel better.
Hmm.
Bye bye. Anyways, okay, all right, Papa, I love you. Go home and go.
Okay, I love you too. Have
Okay.
yourself a great weekend. Give my best to everybody.
All right.
And I'll say, once you hop off of here, I can then, if I can find my glasses.
Which one are you gonna boost? There's like 5 different videos, right? Didn't you get knocked off a couple times?
Today?
Yeah.
No, no, I
Oh.
had, it went out. It went out for about 5 seconds or so.
Oh, I thought it got knocked off completely.
No, no, no. It just
Oh,
says
good.
trying to reconnect. I can get a surge in
Yeah.
our electricity or something, and it screws up
Yeah.
the modem or something, and so it's got to boot up. But as usual, I mean, usually, I'll have a bunch of people on live, and then I get that little break, and then only half of them are there when it comes back, even if it's
Yeah.
only 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But that's all right. That's just, I do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
When there's a break in the show I'm watching, I go, oh, okay, they're having problems, and I move
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
But hopefully people will come back and pick up the rest of the show. So anyway, okay, listen, have a great weekend. Once you're off, I can see who's been on here. I can
Okay.
say
All right.
hi to some people. Julia came in. Hang
Okay.
on, maybe I can get through here. Let's see. We got Julia. Thank you, Joe and Marissa. Very good. Thanks, Julia. Oh, bye, Marissa. And Sheila. Hi, Sheila. And Julie again, Gletha. And Marissa, I can see you were coming in a few times. Oh gosh, a whole bunch of times. Diane, thanks, Diane. My dog passed recently, and I feel your pain. Oh, so sorry. I know ours did too. It hurts. Ay, ay, ay. So you understand, Diane. Julia, hi, Julia. John Avis, thanks, John. Julie again, Marissa, you're coming in here. Katie, hi, Katie. And who else is in here? Just a bunch of other stuff. Oh, who else? Sarah, hi, Sarah. Gosh, Marissa, you came in there a lot. Tiffany, hi, Tiffany. Gletha, Julia again. Natalie, hi, Natalie. Shireen, hi, Shireen. Demi, pastas make cool. That's a new one. Hi, pastas make cool. And then again, Tiffany again. Donna, hi, Donna. Gosh, you've got a bunch of people. Miguel, Sarah. Oh yeah, I got a lot of people in today. Okay, everybody, have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be happy, like Marissa says. Pray in the spirit to be happy. And hopefully your team will guide you in that direction and keep you happy. So again, Marisa Morris, along with myself, I'm her dad, Joe Morris. And this is Answers Heaven Speaks. What we're trying to do is bridge that gap between Christianity and spirituality. And hopefully we're not offending either side. Maybe we're bringing everybody together. Just like that spirit of God that's inside your head. His goal is for your brain, your mind to meld with that spirit. So you become one with God. And so that makes it easier for him to be your will. Be your will becomes his will. And that's it. All right. Have a great weekend, Joe Morris. Good chance I'll be on here on Sunday, not tomorrow. Sunday will be strictly a biblical show. We'll deal only with the Bible. And if you don't catch that, then I'll be back here on Monday, and we'll just keep this story going. It's a great story. The life of Jesus and what he's going through. It's going to be a crazy one. Things are going to get crazy over the next couple weeks. So take care. Joe Morris, Answers Heaven Speaks. God bless.